Welcome everyone to Scaling Up, Unleashing the Power of Your Business. My name is Chris Wise, your business architect and scaling coach. And I'm a no BS kind of guy. You're not going to find much fluff here. In fact, you probably aren't going to find any fluff. So if that's okay, I'm going to go ahead and jump right into the information. I'm going to start off about talking who this training is for. I will be taking questions at the end, so if there are questions, you can type those in the chat box and I'll be taking those at the end of the presentation. So who is this training for? Training is for companies that are already successful, that have at least one profitable sales channel, that are doing at least 100,000 to 10 million plus in revenue. Their business infrastructure is accessible via the cloud, and they have a remote workforce or want to build one. Now, if you're not in this situation, that's okay. You can still get a lot of value from this information. Now, however, it might mean that scaling it's not the right time for your business to scale, because if you haven't developed at least one profitable sales channel and you haven't cracked the code on sales and marketing, that's where your focus should be. Now, I will give a caveat to this. If you know that you're about to break into a huge amount of leads or a huge amount of sales, then you want to have planned for that, because what you don't want to find yourself is in a situation where you have generated a whole bunch of leads, but perhaps not, if you're closing with the sales team, you haven't put the infrastructure in place to scale your sales team to meet the lead demand. Even a worse situation is where you have a whole bunch of sales that have come in that you've closed and you haven't thought about ahead of time and put the scaling and the systems and structures in place to actually fulfill on what you've sold. So that's actually even a worse situation, because then you got a lot of pissed off customers. So generally speaking, you already have sales, you've cracked the code on sales and marketing, but that is one caveat that you want to be thinking ahead. Share with you briefly about my background. I've been an entrepreneur for 25 years. I've started over 10 companies, 2 of which were sold. I've coached and consulted with hundreds of different types of businesses. This is anywhere from coaching businesses, direct marketing, service-based businesses, B2B, B2C, and then physical-based businesses like restaurants, automotive, all different types of companies that I've worked with and consulted with. I'm an author and international speaker, and I've created hundreds of different types of systems, some of those systems being sales systems, marketing, fulfillment, HR, project management, and more. I want to start off by giving you an example of some of the results that one of my clients got, and this will help you see this information, how it can be directly applied to your business, and really how powerful scaling is, and the methodology and the thought that I'll be giving you and how it directly relates to your business. So this was a client. They were spending $50,000 per month on Facebook advertising, and they were making a 15% ROI. So they were getting their $50,000 back, and they were making an additional $7,500 per month. So they were making a front-end 15% ROI, which already that's phenomenal. Within 4 months, that ROI doubled through 2 different things that I did. The first was I put in a new metrics framework so that they could better look at the metrics, because what was happening every month, the outsourced service provider that we were working with, they would email us the metrics and the stats from the previous week. And there wasn't much attention being put to these numbers. Really, just the owner was just looking at the bottom line numbers. And I knew that we need to put a better metric framework in place. So I created a G Sheet, a Google Sheet, and so we began to track each week all of our different metrics, so then we could begin to compare side by side how things were evolving over time. And eventually I had them build out and put in all the previous data, so we were actually able to look at month by month and year by year a comparison of what actually was happening for all the different products that they were selling for us on, or marketing for us on Facebook. Well, because we had this metric framework, and that's actually one of the building blocks, metrics and reporting, And then we changed, and because of that, that actually changed the communication model, what we were actually communicating about when we were meeting on a weekly basis. And the focus of our conversation actually became much more about the numbers, and it brought their attention, because this was an outsourced contractor, and it brought their attention that we were now actually looking at the numbers, and it changed how they were actually working by doing two things: putting in the metric framework and changing the communication model and structure. And by those two things, there was an increase in ROI. It doubled to 30% or $15,000 a month. That was a 100% increase in ROI. Or if you put that on an annual basis, an extra $90,000 per year by these two different building blocks, metrics and the communication structure. This is what that looked like. So this was before. This was their cost, their spend, $50,000, and they were making $7,500. This was after the work that I did and the 100% increase. This was, and again, this was on a monthly basis. And if you look at the direct ROI that was created from this work, it was around $3,000 that they spent in having me help them set this up and structure it. But that was almost double. That was definitely a double in what they spent. But this was a month by month, right? So that was a one-time expense that they spent to get this extra $7,500 per month, month after month after month. This is the power of systems and scaling. You put it in place once, and it creates the result over and over and over again. And then it creates a foundation in which you build upon. I actually wanted to go back and take a moment here to define scaling and why it's so important. So scaling is a methodology for systematically growing a company. Scalability is a company's ability to quickly and systematically grow. So if you're currently doing 100,000 and you want to go to 1 million, you need to scale. If you're doing 1 million and want to go to 10, you need to scale. If you're at 10 million and want to go to 100 million, you need to scale. Scaling is the systematic methodology for growing your business in the most profitable and direct way. And there is a science to that, and I'm going to share that science with you tonight. So what does a scalable company look like? Well, first off, there's roles and responsibilities clearly defined. In up-and-coming companies, this is one of the biggest things that I see missing that creates huge amounts by not having clearly defined roles and responsibilities. It creates huge problems inside the organization. KPIs and metrics being consistently monitored and discussed for the company, department, and team member. 3 different levels. So there's KPIs, key performance indicators. There's 3 different levels. 1, the executives are looking at this on the company level. 2, for each department, you have key metrics, which each of your department heads are looking at. And then lastly, your team members, each team member needs to be aware of what metrics and KPIs they're responsible for. 3rd, all policy and procedure clearly defined, spelled out, accessible, and communicated to the entire team. This is what creates that consistency in action and the stability inside your organization. And 4th, all business processes are clearly defined, mapped out, accessible, and communicated to the entire team. So what's the impact of trying to grow a business without a scaling methodology? One impact is overwhelm. This overwhelm is caused because of the amount that there is to do and or because you're growing too fast. So when there isn't a methodology for how you actually want to grow your business, it can feel like things are out of control, there's way too much to do. But when you have a container, when you have a process, a system for and how you're actually growing and scaling your company, you feel more in control. The organization as a whole, even though things could be just going so fast, you have things under control, and there's a methodology for growing it. A second impact is confusion, because you don't have clarity on your strategic direction or where you should be putting your focus. One of the impacts on or comment on confusion is so often companies find themselves working in the business and not on the business. And when you don't have enough focus on your business, everything that I'm going to be talking with you is about working on your business, creating the infrastructure to scale. When you're always about working in the business, like Michael Gerber talks about in the E-Myth, this creates a very slow growth. You can experience large amounts of growth, but it's not strategic. And generally speaking, your growth is going to be much slower because there isn't forethought necessarily developed into where you're going to be headed and how you're going to get there. Frustration can arise from inefficiencies in your company by not having the right systems and processes in place. Frustration because you're not growing fast enough or not as fast as you feel is possible. So this is the opposite end of overwhelm, when you know there's so much opportunity inside of your organization, but you don't have the right systems and structures in place to take advantage of that opportunity, or the right strategic meetings occurring. A lot of frustration can happen because you're like, I should be growing faster because I know the opportunity's out there. So I want to expand your thinking about systems. I work with a lot of CEOs who aren't good at systems. And there's actually a lot of amazing visionaries, a lot of great creative people who understand the importance of systems, but haven't figured out the right way to implement them inside of their businesses. Now, there's also some CEOs that actually have a complete unawareness of systems and haven't fully realized that by not having systems, how much money they're actually losing, because they're just so excited about their vision, they're just so excited about what's next, they're actually hurting their organization by not putting focus here. So what I'm going to do here is expand your thinking around systems and make you realize how much systems actually impact every aspect of our life. One, the alphabet is a system for word creation. Two, there's pen and paper, which is a tool. There's a person utilizing the tool. And then there's grammar, which is a system. And all three of those working together, the person using the tool, following the grammar system, which creates a collaborative system for communication. Houses are made up of systems. You have the plumbing and electrical systems. And then these houses have different departments or rooms that each rely on these different types of systems, like your bathroom, kitchen, and bedroom. And your body is actually a system, and it's made up of different systems. You have the skeletal and muscular system, and it's made up of different parts, like the brain, heart, and lungs, all working together to bring you into existence. Systems are all around us. So let's take a look at the impact of systems. The beauty of a system is that it enables you to do what you have to do without having to think about the system. The challenge of a system is that you have to be aware of them, think about them, and understand them in order to create and change them, which means as you, as the owner, the CEO, the executive in your business, in order for you to have the growth in your business that you desire, you have to think about systems. And you have to and if you're not naturally a systems person, then you have to have somebody in your organization that can help you put systems inside of your business. Thus, we enter into the world of systems thinking. So I'm going to define to you how I like to look at business systems. So first, we have people. People are absolutely essential inside of our business to do things, to get things done. And then we have policy, procedure, and processes that people follow to get things done in a certain way. And then there's some sort of tool or tech system that people use following the right policies, procedures, and processes that accomplish different things. Now, our business is made up of all three of these. Each three of these work together in unison, and the more that we have put thought and clarity behind the interaction and the intersection of how these are working together, the more effective business system that we've created. And our business is made up of these, and I'll give you some more examples of how our business is made up of these. But I want you to remember to think back to the example that I gave you of the pen, the person, and grammar. That's the same situation but applied to businesses. To give you a specific example of this in action, if you think of a sales system, we have salespeople, then we have sales scripts, and we have sales manual, and we have a sales operational manual and sales processes, and then we might have a CRM or some sort of sales tool that salespeople are using on a regular basis. So how all three of those different things interact and work together enables the sales department in that particular sales system to move forward and create certain results. Now there's 4 different types of people when it comes to systems thinking and understanding systems. 1, there's people who follow systems. 2, there's people who maintain systems. 3, there's people who create systems. And 4, there's people who create systems to run systems. Now, on our very first level, if you've ever hired a lot of people, maybe even one, I'm sure you've run into the case where you wanted somebody to follow a certain instructions or process, and they weren't even able to do that. So we have to acknowledge that there's definitely a level, and it's those types of people typically don't work out in organizations where you need to follow instructions to get things done, or you keep them on your team and you continually suffer, right? Now, I'll give you an example of it. There is another category person, like the creative genius, who may not necessarily be great at following systems, and a lot of times that's the CEO of certain companies who are this creative genius, but I have trouble, following, setting to a particular pattern. If you're that kind of person, you need to have somebody that creates a system for you to harness the power of your creativity. So that will address for the fact that you don't necessarily want or enjoy following systems. So while there's 2 different extremes, sometimes people that can't follow systems, we don't want them on our team because they can't follow the instructions. Other times it's people, yes, we want them on our team, but we just know that, hey, they just can't do it, so we need to actually create a system and a structure to account for that. One of the biggest mistakes that businesses make in creating systems is having people who can really only follow or maintain systems attempt to create them. Now, I want you to think about that for a moment, especially if you've ever tried to have somebody create you a process or a procedure or a system in your business, and then you looked at it and you're like, really? This is it? You need to understand that certain people can maintain them, they can create them, and that they can create systems that actually run systems. So that's an important distinction. To help you, here's a tool when you're hiring people that can help you identify how well somebody is at creating systems. It's Kolbe.com, and you can take the Kolbe A test. What I've noticed in working with most businesses lack an architect that can guide them to designing the business. And when you begin to think about how you actually want to design your business, as soon as you can do that, you actually begin to create a more successful business. So now let's look at your business as a system. Now again, remember, the reason that we're talking about systems is because systems is what's key for scaling. So your business is made up of different systems. We have sales systems, marketing systems, project management system, typically usually just one project management system, a communication or collaboration system, HR systems, all kinds of different systems that our business is made up of. And then we have different departments. Now sometimes there's direct overlap, right? So sales systems are part of the sales department, right? marketing and part of the marketing department. Other times there's systems like a project management system or a communication system that actually all different departments use. Now let's take a look at business systems in action. So remember our triad here, our interaction of people, policy, procedure, and processes, some sort of tool. Well, each of these, if you think about each of our different departments is made up of these different interactions, right? We have project manager with policy and procedure for how projects get done in a project management system. We have marketing staff, marketing, our client avatar, our marketing manual, how often and frequently we're marketing, and then in marketing typically there's all types of different marketing tools. You got Hootsuite and maybe you're using Infusionsoft, and then you got your website. All of those are different tools, and depending on who's in how big your organization is, all kinds of different policy, procedure, perhaps different people doing different roles, right? So each of these is a collaboration of people, policy, procedure, processes, and some sort of tool. Our business is a you can look at our business as a synergy of systems, but it's actually more than that, because there's something that gives life to meaning to our business, and that's our mission, our purpose, and our values. Or you can put it our what, which is our mission, our why, our purpose, and actually how we go about fulfilling that mission and purpose, which is our values. These give guidance to how we set up our systems, who we hire and why, how we set up our different tools, how we define our policy, procedure, and processes. So this is very important in giving clarity into actually how we set up and define all of our different structures. Now, our business is not static. Our business moves through time, and it changes as we grow. Now, one of the most important things that will guide your business's growth as it moves through time is annual and quarterly strategic meetings. You absolutely need to be doing these. So on an annual basis, you're looking out over the year and you're saying, what are our goals for the upcoming year? On a quarterly basis, you're looking, how did we do over the last quarter, and where are we moving forward over the next quarter? All keeping in mind your annual goals that you set at the beginning of the year. This is absolutely, even if you're just one person, you want to be doing this. Now, if you're just one, so here's a recommendation. If you're just one person, you need to be working with a business coach to be helping you do this, because it's so hard and it's actually kind of boring to be doing this by yourself, because you need somebody that can elicit that from you. And even the same in larger organizations that have a team, a lot of times I see the owner, the CEO, running these quarterly strategic meetings, and when he's actually able to sit back and be a part of the process as opposed to leading the process, the CEO is able to get much more involved. So even in larger organizations, having an outsider person to come in to lead these types of meetings is very powerful, so that the whole collaboration of the team can really get behind these different types of meetings. So now we're going to talk about business scaling success. So whatever marketing or sales strategy that you're doing, however you're growing your business through sales and marketing, you can plug that into what I've been talking about and into the framework that I'm about to share with you. So we've talked about our business systems, our business as a collaboration of systems, and we've talked about our mission, vision, and values and how those work together and how our business moves through time. That actually creates a foundation. Now, I haven't talked about the building blocks yet. There's specific building blocks to that foundation, which I'm going to talk about next. But this creates the foundation for you to rapidly scale. And we're not just talking, yes, this is growth, but there's a distinction between growing and scaling. Scaling, the difference is there's a methodology for scaling. There's a specific set way that you follow, that you think about your business, that's different than when you're just like, oh, I want to grow my business. Okay, yeah, I want to grow my business and experience 3% growth next year. Okay, great. I want to, or hey, I want to scale my business and I want to experience 10, 20, 50, 100% growth. When you're going to have and you want rapid growth, you need to be thinking in terms of scaling because things are happening at a very fast and rapid rate. The better your foundation and ability to adapt to change over time will impact how rapidly and effectively you can scale. So now I'm going to give you the 8 building blocks for scaling. Number 1, people and their roles and responsibilities. Number 2, the department structure, how you actually structure these people into their different departments. Number 3, your communication model and structure. What are the expectations? How are people communicating? How are the different departments communicating? How are you communicating with external vendors? What are the expectations? I'm actually going to, after I go over the 8 building blocks for scaling, I'm then going to give you an analysis where I walk you through so you can actually see where you actually measure up. How scalable is your company? So that's what's coming next. Our 4th building block, project management and your internal team execution structure, how well you're getting things done. Number 4, your technology systems. Number 6, your documentation, policy, procedure, and processes. Number 7, your growth methodology and our metrics and reporting. All of these are your foundation for scaling. So how does your business rate in its ability to scale? That's what we're going to do right now. So I'm going to ask you a series of questions for each of these 8 different building blocks, and this is an opportunity for you to actually rate yourself and then see how actually well you rate in terms of your business's ability to scale. So I'm going to ask you a series of questions. I go through each of these building blocks, and overall, what is your gut feel on where you rank on a scale of 1 to 5? 1 being the lowest, 5 being the highest, like, yep, I got it all, I'm dialed in. 1 being like, yeah, we need a lot of work here. Now, if you actually don't know or you're unsure with up to a 20% or more margin of error, I want you to rate yourself as unknown. Because if you really don't know, if you're not sure actually where you fall with that, I don't want you to guess because that's a red flag. Because if you're a CEO and you're unsure how you rank with each of these different things, that's huge. So I want you to mark that as unknown. So let's start with people, roles, and responsibilities. Do you have the right people on the bus? Or in other words, that's Jim Collins, good to great. Or in other terms, do you have the right people on your team? 2, do you have clearly defined and held roles and responsibilities? Do you have an organizational chart? Do you have a roles and responsibilities map? Is there a grabbing or avoidance of responsibility? Is there each person clear about what they're supposed to do and the results that they're expected to generate? So on a scale of 1 to 5, how do you rate yourself on this particular building block? Next, our department structure. Do you have clearly defined departments? Is there departmental overlap or gaps? How well are your departments structured and operating? Do each of your departments have an operating guide, an operations manual? Are they actually following it? How well do your different departments work together? 1 to 5. Next, our communication model. Do you have a communication model and meeting structure? Have you defined communication expectations and outcomes? Do you have regular meetings with your team and clear outcomes and next actions? How effective do you feel that your meetings are? How well do you feel your team communicates with each other? How often are misunderstandings or miscommunications occurring? Scale of 1 to 5. Next, our project management and internal team execution structure. Now, as I'm asking you these questions, I want you to think about it for both internal projects and how well you're fulfilling with your customers. How effective is your team at execution? Does your team execute with grace and precision or confusion and uncertainty? How about your external contractors and partners? Is your team effective at hitting deadlines and not missing the critical details? Do you have things that fall through the cracks? How many things? How big are those things? Rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 5. Next, we're going to look at our technology systems. How well set up are your technology systems? Are you fully utilizing the capabilities your systems have? Do you have someone that ensures they're up to date? Does each of your tech systems fulfill the needs of the department they serve? Do the systems that need to communicate together communicate effectively? Go ahead and rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 5. Next, we have our documentation, policy, procedure, and processes. How well is your business documented? Do you have a company manual, a team manual, and department guides? And are they actively used? Is your team clear on your company's expectations of policy and procedure? Do you have all of your policies documented? Do you have all your business processes documented? On a scale 1 to 5, how do you rate? Next, we look at our growth methodology. Do you have a defined and clear growth methodology? Do your department heads or managers understand how the growth of the company and their departments interrelate and integrate? Do you have annual and quarterly strategic meetings? On a scale 1 to 5. And lastly, our metrics and reporting. How well integrated is metrics and reporting into your business? Do you have metrics tied to your mission statement? We'll talk more about that later and how that's absolutely critical, one of the most powerful things that you can do. Are you looking at your metric KPIs to guide your growth methodology? Is it easy for you to drill down into the metrics? Do you have regular meetings and conversations around your metrics? Are you taking action based on metric data you digest? Are you feeding your gut with healthy metrics and data? Does each person on your team, are they clear as to what they're responsible for and what metrics and KPIs they must meet? And is there accountability for that? On a scale 1 to 5, how do you rate? Now, you could be anywhere from a 0, I guess, if you had all unknowns, to 40. So first off, if you had a score of 32 or higher, congratulations. You are scalable. You've done a lot of great things in your organization. Now, I imagine, because even in the most successful companies, and in fact, in even the most successful companies on the surface level, most companies don't have a lot of these things in place. Now, if you already have a successful company, can you imagine how much more successful you would be if you had these things in place, even if you had a fraction of these things in place? So this is what I do as a scaling coach and in the clients that I work with. So now I'm going to talk about how I work with different clients and really what I use to measure results when I'm working with people. First, I want to give you an idea of the types of clients that I work with. I currently have availability for 3 new clients. I'm very selective in who I work with. The reason that I am is because I'm looking to work with people because you're going to get at least a 10x return in working with me. And so I want to make sure that you are the right person because you're going to get results, and I only want to work with people that are committed to getting results. So here are some of those qualifications. 1, you're coachable. 2, you're committed to growing and scaling your business. 3, committed to excellence. You want to go to the next level. And you're willing to slow down to speed up. I want to talk to you about this because this is a pretty important one. And a lot of the companies that I work with, they're growing so fast, they have a lot of success going on, but they don't have a lot of the systems and structure in place that are going to really enable to help them sustain that growth, right? Because you could be on a growth projection and that's awesome, but unless you're putting this stuff in place, it's going to fall off. You're not going to be able to maintain that. You're not going to be able to sustain it. So a lot of times, and in most cases, I need the owner, the CEO, to understand this concept of slowing down to speed up. So if you're the work that we're doing, if you've studied Stephen Covey's model of the 4 quadrants, important and urgent, not urgent, unimportant, right? This stuff falls into the important but not urgent category, but it's absolutely essential for you growing your business. Creating a scalable business dramatically with this methodology dramatically reduces the fires that you have to put out, and there's a shift from reactive to proactive, as well as a position to grow from. So you need to put systems in place. The bottom line is systems enable you to scale and taking on the mindset of slowing down to speed up. I'm going to give you an overview of the different types of systems that I've created, and the reason that I'm doing this is because as we're working together, and I'm going to share with you the coaching methodology that I use, perhaps you need to build out a different department. In most cases, I've already built out that type of department, and I can give you specific guidance around how to do that. I can review your policy, procedure, processes. So these are some of the types of systems that I've created, and if you need to create these, I've might already have a model for it, and I've probably already done it. So operational workflow and communication solutions and standards, sales and marketing systems, automated webinar systems, fulfillment systems, automatic contract signing integrations, content delivery systems, content usage and participation results systems, hiring and HR systems, finance systems, customer service solutions and systems, creating the infrastructure and operational plan of virtual companies, time management or project management systems, training systems, both for onboarding and sales, event systems, affiliate and business development systems, and learning management or content delivery systems. Let me give you another example of results that a recent client has received from working with them. So this is about productivity being tripled. So this one client, they were using a project management system, but not really. They had one, but there was no consistent way in which they were doing it. So I came in and I said, we're going to start using this, and I created policy procedure around that system. I got everybody on board. We did a training, and we monitored one of the key, so here's some of the key elements of this. We monitored, so that in the past, when a task went overdue, well, actually in the past, a lot of times they wouldn't even put due dates on tasks. So when we started putting due dates, and then there was accountability for when tasks went overdue, that created a huge difference. Just by somebody, just get this concept, by somebody actually watching and holding people accountable creates a tremendous impact in productivity and bottom line results creation. When people know that they're being managed, they produce. And this is what really took it to another level. This is what created the productivity tripled results that I haven't seen anybody else do. It's something that I've uniquely created. I developed completion metrics, and then we would talk about them monthly on the company meeting. So I set the goal. I said I want there to be a minimum of 80% that people are completing their tasks on time. And at first, when I put this in place, people were at 30 to 40%. But when we began to look at that, when they actually people knew that how they were completing things on time was actually being, not only they were being held accountable, but now we're actually, everybody see it, and you could see how you compared with other people. Within 3 months, almost everybody was at 85 to 99%. That's 3 times the work output by bringing focus to the due date with the same HR expense. Now I want to talk, I mean, this is incredible. Here's the building blocks that were used in this. One, we had a tech system, a project management system. It was being used, but it wasn't really, right? So we made sure that that got set up and we're using all the different functionalities of it that we needed in that company. 2, there was no clearly defined policy and procedure around how that system was supposed to be used. There was no processes mapped out. We mapped those out so that everybody got clear. We created a training around when new people came on, they were immediately trained now into this culture of how things were being done. This changed how we were meeting. So this changed our meeting structure and our communication expectations. That's the 3rd block this impacted. And another block it impacted was the results and metrics. So we put in results and metrics around this, which created a tremendous difference. So you can see how there was 4 building blocks that were used in this productivity tripled, and now this is a system that's in place that just runs over time, and it created a culture of execution. So here's the actual process that I use when I begin to work with my clients. The first one is we define our measurements for success. I look at what revenues that you've done, where you're headed, and what the ROI difference we're looking to create is from our work together, and I'll show you a little bit more about that, but we define our measurements for success. We put out scaling fires. If there's any emergencies we got to take care of, we take care of that. Then we define the owners, the CEO, and other key executives, their ideal role to unleash their greatness. Many times I'm working, especially in companies that are below 10 million, where the owner hasn't fully positioned himself where he's just able to unleash his greatness, where he's just able to do what he absolutely loves every day, because as the CEO, you're the most important person in the company. And we want to make sure that you are free to grow that company within your greatest potential. So once we have that defined, then as we begin to move through the rest of the stuff, we can begin to shift you into that ideal role. 4th, mission to metrics. This is something that I haven't seen done anywhere else. This is something that I created. And this is where we take your mission statement and we actually put one metric behind it. The power of this is that this is where everybody can get behind this one metric. In fact, I'll give you an example of how this applied to a company that I actually used to own and work with that I eventually sold. We were helping clients get funding, and we put this metric in place, and our mission statement was to empower entrepreneurs to get business funding so they could pursue their passions. And when we began, and our metric was the percentage of clients that purchased our program, what was the percentage that were actually getting funded? And when we first looked at this, 10% of the people that we were that had purchased our programs actually followed through the process and ended up getting the funding. When we began to look at this, we set our goal, we said we wanted to be 15%. And within 6 months, we had moved the needle to that 15% mark. That was huge. And what was cool about that is that every single department in the company got behind that metric. It impacted customer support because now customer support knew that they needed to better fulfill answer questions so people could get funding. It impacted our marketing. It impacted our sales. It impacted our coaching. It impacted every single aspect of our business. And no matter what your business is, if you can create one metric, tie it to your mission statement, the power that that has for your entire team is incredible. Once we've done that, we define and apply the company metric framework. I'm going to show you what that looks like. And then once we have all that in place, that enables us to identify the greatest areas of opportunity to put different building blocks inside of the organization to systemize it and scale it, and that enables us to drill down to find out those greatest opportunities. So this is the company metric framework. So imagine that you have this for your business. Every day you open this up and you're able to see your business as a perspective, as a whole picture, how all the different departments tie in together, how all the different functions, and typically most businesses can fall under this framework of attract interest, capture leads, nurture prospects, convert sales, deliver and satisfy, upsell customers, and get referrals. Most businesses can fall within that framework. Now imagine you have this set up, you know how it applies to your business, you have your mission statement at the top, and you have that one metric defined. Every month you're getting on with your team, your key executives, you're reviewing this, and for each of these different sections you have metrics to measure each of these different areas, and then you have the ability to drive down even more. This becomes our guiding, this is how we make decisions about what areas we want to scale next. But we're making those decisions not necessarily from a gut feel, but from a gut feel that's been fed with real data. We're making it from reality based, not just from, oh, I think or oh, I feel. It's like, what are the true metrics aside of the organization? What are they telling us where we need to be putting our focus? This is powerful, powerful stuff. This is 10x, 100x type of results-oriented thinking and stuff that can change your company. So I want you to think about your business. I talked about all the different the building blocks, and your business is at some number on a scale, in this case I'm using 1 to 10, but your business on each of these different building blocks is at some number. See, my genius is to see the whole picture and how all the different parts work together and identify where focus needs to be put. My genius also lies in creating the structure and frameworks to help you and your team better manage your business. So for example, let's say that we identify we want to focus on metrics and reporting first, and we crank that up a notch. We see the result. And then we say, you know what? Now it looks like we need to focus on our departmental structure. So let's crank that. Let's put some better systems and policies around and structure around our departments, and we see a direct result from that. So each of these, it just becomes, we're twisting knobs, turning knobs, cranking up the scaling and the growth of each of our different areas, each of these different building blocks. So these are the different scaling programs that I have, and I've broken these up for companies by their revenue amounts. So we have companies that are 100,000 to 1 million, companies that are 1 million to 10 million, and above 10 million. So for companies that are 100,000 to 1 million, there's a scaling readiness assessment. We get into our systems definition. There's weekly coaching sessions. And when I'm working with somebody, there's a minimum of 6-month commitment that I'm looking for you in working with you. And the investment is $1,500 per month. And if you pay in advance, pay all 6 months up front, you save $1,000 for a total of $8,000. So this is each of those weekly coaching sessions, I'm taking you through that wise profit scaling process. For companies that are 1 million to 10 million, I go through a detailed scaling readiness assessment. We dive deep into systems definition, development, and implementation plans. We have weekly coaching sessions. We do detailed KPI development. And quarterly, we get together and we do a 1-day strategic or a quarterly strategic meeting, progress review, and plan adjustment. Over 6 months, that's 6-month commitment. Each month is $3,667. If you pay all 6 months up front, it's $18,500. And if you're above 10 million, there's the main shift here is that typically in companies that are above 10 million, there's somebody in your organization that I'm actually going to be working closer with than I may you as the CEO. So with the CEO, typically we do bi-weekly coaching sessions, and then I'm meeting weekly with whoever your scaling champion is, your execution or inside of your organization, and I'm doing weekly coaching with them. The additional thing on 10 million above, there's monthly executive briefings and progress review, and that's $5,000 a month. If you pay for 6 months in advance, you save $5,000, it's $25,000. Here's my 10x promise. If after working together for 30 days, you don't feel that you've received at least 10 times the value of what you've paid for, I will give you your money back. That's because my expectation is that over time, over the 6-month period, you're going to be getting a minimum of a 10x return, and you'll know within the first 30 days if we're a right fit or not. And so if it's not, I'm just giving you all your money back, because I am so committed that my clients get results that I only want to work with people that actually feel like we're on the track to getting those results. So here's how I actually measure results with my clients, and that's through an increase in gross revenue and increased profitability. I expect that you're going to be able to see a minimum of a 10x return from your investment with me over a 6-month period, and actually what's possible is up to even a 100x return. And here's how we measure that. So we look, let's say that you've been in business for 3 years. We look at your growth over that 3-year period, and typically you're going to have some sort of projection of where you felt like you were on track to growing over the next year. This projection becomes what becomes our ROI difference. And so what I'm expecting is that this ROI difference is going to be a minimum of a 10x return, if not as much as a 100x return. So for me, the longevity of our relationship is based on measured results, not feeling good about what you've paid for. I don't want you to just feel good about working with me and have a 10x and have a 10x or more perceived value. I actually want you to get 10x or more results in return, and this is how I measure that. So why can there be such dramatic results in working together? Number one is the focus. The focus comes from the process that I've created around helping companies scale, which gives you clarity in the types of actions that you're taking, and those actions create better results. So if you're someone that's interested in working, I have a strategy session. This is where we get to know each other. I get to know you better to see if you're a fit, if you're someone that I feel like actually can help take to get these types of results. I only have space for 3 new clients. And I will say this, if money or time is an obstacle for you, I'm not the right coach to work with. My time is very busy. So I allocate part of my time to coaching, doing this types of coaching with clients, and part of my time we're actually consulting, where companies bring me in to go inside of their business and typically give me some sort of equity or profit sharing, where I'm actually working inside of their organization. So I'm looking for people who are very serious about growing and scaling their business. And so for those of you that find yourself in that category, I offer you a 30-minute strategy session. And to get that, you can go to, it's bit.ly/ChrisWise30. Yes, that link is bit.ly/ChrisWise30. When you go to the URL there, if you are serious about a strategy session, you're going to get a link for a pre-strategy session questionnaire where I'm going to ask you about your business. So then you fill that out and then send that to me prior to our strategy session.